All right, we're live. Hey, everyone. Hey, thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to Cold Email Deep Dive, our virtual event for SDRs looking to master the art of cold emailing in 2023 and beyond. My name is George. I'm Director of Partnerships here at Reply, and today we're excited to talk to you about the secrets of crafting irresistible cold outreach emails. So first off, let me walk you through the agenda for today. So you will know that we're in for a treat. So number one, we're going to start off with a panel discussion on the state of cold emailing in 2023 with a panel of experts representing both service and product companies in the sales space. We have Marcus Chan, Nick Persico, and Eric Nowoslawski. We're going to continue with a presentation by our own Vlad Oleksiienko, who's our head of growth here at Reply. He's going to talk about data-backed insights on effective cold emails. And we're going to close off with a workshop with Collin Mitchell, who's going to do a cold email teardown, which, as history shows, typically is the most popular type of sessions, at least in our virtual events. Should be invaluable for beginners or those who simply want to improve their cold emailing skills by, again, checking the best practices by experts. By the way, don't forget to use the chat, as always, to network, to ask your questions. This time around, the author of the best question will get some swag at the end of the event. We're going to announce that at the end. And while you're enjoying these sessions, feel free to share your takeaways on LinkedIn, and obviously also tag Reply in those posts to spread the word. And two of you are going to win one of the 2 Amazon gift cards worth $100 each, or any equivalent in your currency if you're watching us outside of the US. The winners will be reached out to directly on LinkedIn after the event. Okay, and again, a bit of housekeeping. The most common question: yes, we are recording this, and yes, we will be sharing the recording after the event. So don't worry if you have to run. And I think that's it for the introduction. All right. Hope you guys are ready for 2 hours of pure value. So let's get started. We're going to kick things off with the panel discussion, as I mentioned, to talk about the state of cold emailing in 2023, trending tactics, best practices, common mistakes, and more. First off, I'd like to introduce our speakers who are all here. Marcus A. Chan, sales coach, author, 3 times Salesforce top sales influencer, and LinkedIn top voice. Nick Persico, director of sales and marketing at Close. And Eric Nowoslawski, who's in charge of growth at Clay. He's also founder of Growth Engine X, outbound strategist, and startup advisor. So, hey guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us today.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Likewise.
All right. So let's start off. We have a few kind of topics that we think are most interesting, just based on just the general trends that we're seeing, and frankly, our direct conversations with customers and partners. So let's start with just a general topic. Are cold emails still effective / relevant in 2023? Marcus, let's start with you.
Sure. Awesome. First off, I'm excited to be here. All right. And I always laugh when someone asks me, hey, do cold emails still work? Do cold calls still work? The truth is, most of those strategies do work if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then it's not going to work, right? So that's just a reality of it. I think especially in today's time, buyers are more skeptical than ever. They're busier than ever. They have less time than ever. Which means lazy emails, frankly, won't cut it. I find, generally speaking, when you stick to solid, proven email fundamentals that kind of stay in style regardless, those are always going to work. That's doing stuff like, making sure it's personalized to them, actually relevant to them. Simple subject lines, simple short copy that's written at like, a fifth grade level or lower. Not just saying book a meeting right here. It's asking for interest and relatively short, less than 100 words. Generally speaking, those are going to work really well if you do a good job with those type of fundamentals. So they are so effective if you do it right.
All right, thanks. Nick, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, same. I'll echo the same. I think if you think about the context of which you're sending cold email really matters. Let's use the most common example, which is an actual salesperson, whether it be a business development rep or sales development rep, BDR, SDR. I think too often I get emails in my own inbox going directly for what they want, which is going for scheduling a call when they haven't even asked me what I care about or if this is relevant to me, or they haven't provided any value to me. The cold emails that I respond to, and think about your own email inboxes, are the ones where they provide me actual value. And in a SaaS context, in an industry context, that's usually, do they provide me with some report or data or analysis that is unique sort of intellectual property or analysis or data that company has about that particular industry. If you send me something like that, like here is the state of real estate in this particular area, and I can go in and I can look at the data and I can be better at my job as a result of knowing that information that you gave me, I'm going to give you a call. Maybe not on the first, email. It's going to take a few. So you have to do it in sequence and follow up over time. But that to me is what is most effective. And that's something that I think will always work regardless of how much noise is coming in. If you just really focus on providing value first, and then people will reward you with their time in return, and just make that transaction very genuine and purposeful.
Exactly. So yeah, as always, what's in it for me, the receiver of this communication? Eric, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think we wouldn't be here if we didn't think that it was effective in 2023. I guess the only thing that I would just add on to what, because I mean, I definitely agree. The only thing I would add on is it also just really depends on your offer. We've had offers that we send one sentence on behalf of our clients, and we don't send anything else. It's just that one sentence, and it works because they're in need. They have a need. We didn't have to personalize. We didn't have to do anything crazy, but they need what we got. If you're like one industry, I've never been able to get this work. And if Nick and Marcus, if you have been able to get this work, would love to hear how. Like cybersecurity, we've done crazy stuff in cybersecurity. Like I was pulling the open port on their website and then relating that to another company that recently got a hack through that open port. And then we would send them a guide on how to close that port. I didn't even want a meeting with them. I just wanted some sign of life, and nobody cared. Like it just didn't work. So, I think, yes, absolutely it works, but it really comes down to what are you selling? Like cybersecurity, you need like Google ads instead of cold email because it's just like a time thing, not really like an email thing.
Yeah, I think also too, when you go into that specific industry, they're also highly skeptical, right? Given the nature they're already in, given the nature of the work, they're really skeptical. And I think when you bolt on the other components that you gentlemen also mentioned as well, there's a consistency and persistency piece that's really important too, right? In the perfect world, we all wish we could craft the perfect one cold email. They immediately say, that's amazing. You have 100% response rate. They book the meeting. They close on the first call. That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing, right? Sales would be really easy, and also would not pay as much as it would if that was the case.
Yeah,
but the reality is that level of persistency and consistency and being in them omni-channel is so critical as well. Exactly your example, cybersecurity. With that first email, maybe it's a couple different emails. Then you also call, and then you also hit them also with Google ads as well, maybe some retargeting. And before you know, they're like, now let's have a conversation now.
Yeah, I can 100% relate to that. Speaking of templates, here at Reply, we get this question probably daily, which is, hey, can you give me a good performing cold email so that I don't have to deal with that, which is unfortunately to us. I wish I could say here it is, just go and send it. but it's never the case. So it's always, how is it relevant to your specific audience? How is it relevant to what you're selling? And so personalization is key as always. All right, and a bit of a kind of next part to that question. If you have seen any changes, and if not, that's completely okay. But are you guys seeing any notable trends and shifts in how cold emails are being received and responded to? And we're not yet talking about, because a big topic for around cold email and around sales is AI, and we have a whole section about that later on. But in regards to how people react, how people respond to, does that keep falling, growing, especially around the COVID time and after COVID? Have you seen any changes in the buyer behavior, or not necessarily buyers, but those who are receiving those cold emails?
Who's first?
Well, I'll say, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, I think we see across the board. I work with a lot of sales reps and a lot of teams across the board, and generally speaking, it's like they're not like, they might still have pretty good open rates. Reply rates have gone down a little bit. Response rates have gone down. Book meetings have gone down, and it's definitely the nature of the market as well, where if funds are tighter and they're entering into a recession, whatever you want to call it, when they feel like it's not available, they might be less open to respond to the first couple of emails, right? And that's where it's definitely key to be persistent and to consistently follow them and put them into a sequence and hit them in different channels to actually get them to actually respond and actually book a meeting. And I think also what I see as well, this is a combination of the nature of the situation. There's a lot of pressure from sales leaders to the sales teams to crank the activity up. And reality is, as they continue to crank the activity up, what's going to naturally happen is personalization will go down, the level of research will go down, so you get more of these templated responses. So it's kind of like the harder you push the activity button on the teams, they'll crank the activity up, but it comes at the cost of poorly crafted emails and sequences, which means less results. It's almost like it's like a circular effect, and it gets worse and worse. And then of course buyers get more upset, get more frustrated. So you have to find a good balance right there. And it's hard because I think as a sales professional, you obviously want to do your job, you want to perform and book meetings and close deals, but you also you have to deal with the pressures of an organization that wants you to hit certain KPIs, because they might fire you if you don't have those KPIs too.
That's a very good point. Actually, any other thoughts, guys, on the, I would say, the trends, if you're noticing them at all, or
the biggest
has
thing,
that been?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we're still noticing is, as I call it, outrunning the bear, which I mean is not new, but where, when I first started in sales development, I don't even think I cold emailed with names, because I bought just a garbage list with no names on it. I just had emails and I was saying, hey there, and I still booked meetings. Like, it was crazy, right? And like, you think about trying to do that today, not going to happen. And so I just see the level of of the email that somebody would respond to is just, even if they need what you have, it looks like a spam email, they're just not even going to respond, because they just don't even want to respond to it. So I just see like the level of outrunning the bear and what everybody else is doing is just getting harder and harder.
Yeah. By the way, that's a very good point. Even based on our experience, speaking of a little bit better personalization over time, I don't know, maybe that's related to our growth stages as an outreach company, but we have seen a lot more in the we've been around for about 7 years, but in the beginning we've seen a lot more of those contacts that only had a list of emails, and they had they had no choice, and they had to go with hi there. And I haven't even thought about it until you just brought it up, which is today's is kind of like a sign of either a bad system or just bad lead generation practice, to not go with at least those very basics. So I was just curious,
is it even good enough anymore, right?
Absolutely.
In some industries, just hey first name is just not even going to cut it.
Yeah, you have to be a lot smarter than that. which leads to my next question. What are maybe some of the best practices aside from, or maybe not aside from better personalization, but what that personalization should look like for a compelling cold email that would stand out from the crowd? And we've covered a bit of that already, which is, you have to be personalized, but what are the best ways to achieve that maybe?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So I think I think many people define personalization in different ways, right? Because I get these cold emails, and I'm sure you all get these type of cold emails, which is like, hey Marcus, saw you went to University of Oregon. Anyways, let's jump on a call. I'm like, that's not personalization. That's you looking at my LinkedIn profile for 3 seconds and you're saying, yeah, you're like, exactly right. I'm like, what are you doing, right? So when you think about personalization, it also has to make sense and be relevant to the rest of the flow of the email as well. And that's where I see a lot of people miss the boat, where like they try to drop some line personalization. It doesn't actually make sense. So for example, like if someone was cold emailing me, I saw a really good cold email come through the other day, and they're like, hey Marcus, I got your new book, your Wall Street Journal best-selling book. It was absolutely incredible. I love this, and this. Oh, I'm like, wow, this guy actually took the time to actually get the book, read the book. And he's like, hey, like in order to grow your business, which I heard about your business on this page here, got a couple ideas on X, Y, and Z. Would you be open for conversation? I'm like, that's pretty good. Like it was clearly personalized. He connected the personalization to what his little value proposition was, which I thought was really, really valuable. So I think it's really key. And I find, generally speaking, like, especially when you're selling into the enterprise, the whole email has to be basically personalized. Like it's taking that level of time to actually they feel it's like, this is made for me. They get me. And when you're able to do that, that's where it's going to hit home in a whole new way, right? A couple other points I think is also relevant to bring up as well. I think when you incorporate you have to find a good balance. You don't want to try too hard, but if you can incorporate humor in your emails, that's really powerful. Like it's such a good tension breaker. If you can do it in like a way that makes sense, it's not weird or kind of cringy. It's kind of like makes sense. And or the value piece. Like when in doubt, I think value is one of the best plays to do when you can provide something that person, the receiver, will say, wow, this report, this video, this training, this X will actually help me be better at my job. If you can incorporate those type of things, you're going to have a higher likelihood of actually being able to have them to respond. And if you were consistent and persistent with it, you combine all those elements over time, eventually you'll probably be able to book that meeting.
Hey, quick follow-up question before I give you guys a word, but one quick follow-up question, because you brought up an example that we had to kind of deal with a similar inbound email recently that was super personalized. So my question to you is, so let's just theoretically, let's imagine, Marcus, that that email that you got saying, hey, I read your book, you said this and this, and I have thoughts on this and this. So if I were to tell you that that was still automated, so the person didn't read the book, but they went so far as to find hyper personalization outreach solutions, will you still appreciate that if you knew that, hey, this is probably automated, but through some super advanced stuff?
I think if I can't tell it's automated, I frankly don't care how to put it together, right? Whether they went and like took my book, transcribed it, ran it through ChatGPT, got a summary of the 5 bullet points, and told them. As long as I don't really care how they got about it, but like I'm like, wow, this person gets me. Ultimately, I don't think people really care about like how you got that information. As long as they're like, wow, this is like they're speaking what's in my mind. Like they're passing what I call the whisper test, which is like the whisper test is like I always imagine your cold prospect is at an anniversary dinner with their spouse. It's a really romantic, expensive dinner, and they're in a nice restaurant. And you come up to them, they don't know who you are, and you whisper in their ear, hey, I know all about you. And it would say, I know you have pain point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you want these specific things, and I have a solution for you. They're like, whoa, tell me more. And they rush away from their spouse, right? That's a level of depth you want to think about when you're writing emails, you're doing outreach. And it's obviously hard to get to that point, but whether they use automation or whatever to get to that point, to me, it's not really relevant. I'm just like, whoa, they get me. They really get me. And that makes me want to be more open to responding. And if I don't respond, if they hit me up again with something similar, and over time, I'll probably like, okay, timing's right. Let me respond to this person. This person actually gets me.
Got it. Guys, Nick, Eric, any thoughts on best practices?
Yeah, I'll say two things. I think first, everybody focuses all of their attention on the first email, when this is the email that is actually responded to the least, right? So why is everybody spending all their time on email 1 that never gets responded to or that has the smallest percentage? You should focus all of your time on email 3 or LinkedIn message 2 or call number 2. Like, focus on what the content is later in your sequence. Those are always seem to be afterthoughts for people. And that's when I, as a buyer, generally when I get cold emails, is when I'm the most interested, is when somebody sends me message 4 or 5. I'm like, okay, great, they're persistent, but the content falls flat or immediately just tells me something that it's like, this is not a fit for me. This doesn't make sense for me. Delete, and then I'll never respond to anything again because I've already decided in my mind that this is irrelevant to me or this is not going to bring me value. So focus on sort of the whole package and spend more of your time in sort of the touch 4, 5, 6, 7, not so much, touch 1 or 2, or at least give equal time. At least let's start there. And then 2, you have to give salespeople help today. You can't just fully rely on the salesperson to bring in the scheduled calls and bring in the closed deals on their own. That's like looking for a unicorn. And you may have some on your team or you may find one, and that's great. But you have to do sort of, if to use a basketball analogy, you have to do a full court press. So if you think about the emails you receive every day, there's sort of 2 reasons for replying. 1, I perceive the person emailing me as my peer or a person of authority, a founder of a company, somebody of an equal level to me. So this is somebody that I want to talk with and interact with, just like on a social basis, kind of almost independent of if I'm going to buy their product or not. Like, so when another founder emails me and they email me something relevant, I'm more likely to respond, right? That's the one reason why you reply. The other reason is the perceived stature of the company that's emailing me, right? If a company emails me, like let's use like a finance example, right? Because I am getting a bunch of emails from them right now. Sorry to put them on blast. Is Brex, right? I get a ton of emails and touches and everything from Brex, but they're pretty good, and they do a good job of personalization. But the reason why I perceive them is because I've seen this brand everywhere. They are doing a full court press on me in all the channels that I'm in, Twitter, LinkedIn, retargeting, even billboards, they're doing the whole thing. So that sales rep is getting that push from that whole company, that whole brand, to where they're likely to get responses. So then the actual messaging of that salesperson is less of a need to be perfect as opposed to what they're doing. So when you look at, put all of that sort of into a nice, neat package, is think about who is sending the email, like what is the persona that you're using. If you're using the founder, then rely on that, or somebody of, some industry knowledgeable person. Or 2, make sure you're doing all the things to help your salespeople stand out, because the company, they've heard of the company before, they've seen you in other places, and then they're more likely to respond. So that would be the 2 things that I would focus on.
Yeah, and I think like a resounding theme that we all have is like reaching out with value, right? And sometimes we'll work with clients, or we'll work with some of the Clay users, and we say, you want to reach out with value, and then they say, great, I'm going to invite them to my webinar. I'm like, okay, no, like that you might think that it's valuable, but like they do not perceive it as valuable. So also drawing a line of what is actually legitimately truly valuable to the prospect, and not just what you think is valuable and is just obviously like a self-serving, it's not even a Trojan horse because you can't even get it through the gate, but truly doing things that are valuable. So like I have a theory that I'm working on right now, that I actually believe that there is such thing as a perfect cold email, where it can't get much better than what you're sending. And what I mean by that is, so in our industry, maybe not close because you guys are doing the CRM stuff, but for Marcus and I, if I were to send somebody a cold email and I said, hey, saw you're in this industry and you're selling to these kinds of people, I actually already ran a campaign for you and I got you 5 leads. They're in this spreadsheet right here. Here's their email addresses. Here's what I said to them. And here's what they responded with. If 5 leads isn't enough for you, would you want to talk about how we could get you more? And so we have verticals that we just know we can print meetings for, and we just run this campaign for them. There's no flashy stuff. There's no, like, literally we're just saying that, and I guess we are programmatically creating Google Sheets. I guess that's the flashy part. So they're not all like going to the same Google Sheet, but for them, that we get crazy book meetings off of that, because they're like, oh my God, you already got me 5 leads. And I'm like, yep, we have a system. We already know that this works. Like, you could totally steal this system, by the way, as well, and like never talk to me, and you could just use the copywriting that we're using and you could totally get away with it. And I mean, I would be very hard pressed to say in our industry of outbound consulting, in order to get a meeting with a client, I can't think of a whole lot of like scaled ways that you could send a better email than that. And so I think it always comes down to, how can you provide that person as much value as possible? Where, like, I have another company that we're running a campaign for that they help with tech stack analysis and redundancies. And we're combing through all of their past job posts and all of their new job posts, and then making like a matrix of like all of the redundant technologies they have, and then delivering that to them, and then saying, hey, you have all of these redundant technologies. Like, you've got 4 databases and like 3, I don't even know, like, I'm like out of databases. I'm like, that's too technical. I'm like already out of it. And we're sending that as the email. And then I guess maybe I'm the odd one out here, but we send these types of emails and all of our responses come from email 1. And we still carry the data through all of the other emails, but we get most of our responses off of email 1. We send like 850,000 cold emails a month. And like, out of all of the sequences, except for like 2, the positive responses are the highest on email 1. And it's because we're taking such like how can I bring the value of my product to the person for free in this email.
See, what I love about this is, and that's amazing, because when you think about it, when you put yourself in the buyer's shoes, the biggest risk they have is like uncertainty. Will this even work for me, even if it's cold email? But the level of value you're providing at that moment, like let's say that 5 leads, let's say for simple math, each is worth 100K. That's 500K in value in potential pipeline you just deliver for them in a first cold email. Right? That's value. And that's where it's a level of research and preparation work that allows you to have greater throughput on your whole process. So I love that. That's a perfect example.
Which I will admit, these leads are not worth 100K, but yeah, like,
I know. But you get my point. Like, let's say 50K, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping our business development is listening right now, because Eric, we're definitely stealing this, or at least we're not a service as you know, a service company, but we're kind of adjacent to that. We're still generating leads for people through automation. So no, that's very interesting. We'll see. Like, if I guess the question is how scalable it is for your specific business model, and based on your deal size and all of that. But
of course,
as an approach, it sounds very interesting. So I wanted to continue with a few questions from the audience. So, and this, by the way, this was in fact in different words, but my next question in the agenda. So people seem to mostly be interested in basically personalization at scale, but not personalization at scale as we talked about it maybe even 3 years ago. But can you speak to, and this is a question from Tyler in the comments, can you speak to the balance between volume and personalization / customization? And Ben also asked, what are the reasonable KPIs for cold emailing? Balancing the more personalized but fewer versus the larger scale and less personalized. Is there even like a middle ground there?
So
yeah, I can. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I think this depends on who you're talking to, right? Like, I think if you're talking to a leader who's getting driven by the board to increase the KPIs for activity metrics, it becomes a very different response now, because you could definitely go against them and be hyper personalized and be more effective with your emails, which we all know that to be true. But now you might be at a risk of getting in trouble, getting put on a performance plan, or getting people yelling at you because they want you to hit certain KPIs, even if you have better results at the end of the day, which I've seen some of that, that minutia happen in corporations, and that just happens. Then there's also bounce, like if you're from a rep perspective, like at the end of the day, it's like, hopefully the number one KPI the company's going to focus on is you getting results, right? So if you're able to personalize at scale, and that could also, and there's different ways to personalize it, right? There's the level of personalization where it's exactly to the point of, here are 5 leads I found for you. That's super personalized, right? But then there's also personalization for it's really relevant pains, and speaking with 50 other SaaS founders on the West Coast, here are the top 3 issues they run into. Oh, okay. And you can be pretty relevant with those as well. That's still personalization too. And you can send more of those emails. So there's a big wide range, but it's hard for me personally to give say you can only send X number of emails, because your situation might be a little bit different. If you're a founder of your own company, you can do whatever you want, right? If you're a rep for a company, you got to play within the rules of the game that's been given to you, so you don't put yourself in a compromising situation.
Yeah, where I come down on this is the scalability part of this, in terms of, sort of the volume of outreach that you can do. I really look at it from a time horizon. Basically, the number of leads that we're going after, we have access to, is equal to some amount of time that you're going to be able to run that campaign. Because what you should always be doing, or this is what I believe and have believed for the last decade, is that you shouldn't do giant email blasts. You should take a small chunk of the list, and it's going to vary for industry and sort of the deal size and all these different things. So I'll let you make that determination. But let's use a simple number of 50 or 100 new emails a day if you're just the salesperson, and you continue to do that. And each time that you send the new batch, you're taking all the learnings from the previous batches and reincorporating that back into it. Because if you just send a giant batch of emails and you accidentally have a spelling error in there, or you mess something up, you've ruined all of those leads for some amount of time, right? And so then you've kind of burned that bridge. So just take tiny steps over time. So that's how I look at the scalability side of it, is not so much a question of how do we get 100,000 emails and then email them tomorrow. No, maybe the total number is 100,000. Then I divide that by the number of business days, and I know that, okay, I can run this campaign for this amount of time. I've gotten this amount of leads to handle the sales team for this amount of time before they need new ones or they need to replenish ones, right? And then on the personalization side, it's really about finding what works for you based off of some of the examples that we gave you earlier. We don't need to relitigate all of that. It's going to be different for everybody, and you really just need to try different things and find what you think works. And you probably have to do some in parallel, and then some will work better than others, and just adjust as you go. It's definitely always more than one thing. And the last part on the KPI part of it, I've always gone by the same mantra of, if your response rate, not open rate, response rate is above 10%, keep doing it, make it better, improve, get to 12, 15%. If it's below 10%, it's dead on arrival. You need to either throw it out or redo it again, or just sort of, stop and then reset again and do that. So that pass fail bar for me, and I tell all customers and clients and everybody, is 10% response rate. And you can define how the response rate works. Probably not the first email, probably after a couple of touches. That's where you're actually doing the percentage of people reached out to versus replies.
I think the single greatest thing that sales reps, sales leaders, and marketing leaders and CEOs can do is to get this question out of their brain and not even think about it. With the onset of how much data we have at our fingertips, I'm going to say data again, because there's so much data at your fingertips. You just need to know where to look for it or how to create it yourself. And then with the onset of AI, I truly believe there is no balance to be had between personalization and scalability. We sent for one customer 180,000 emails over the course of 6 months. Every customer was targeted differently. If they were in one of 3 industries, if their employee headcount was below 10, if they had certain technology on the website. We were looking for clothes. Sorry about that, Nick. We were doing, actually, no, they would work together. It's an integration. No, they would work together, but we would call out clothes. And then if none of those things were true about the prospect, but we knew doing an AI analysis that they were B2B and that they had SDRs on their team who could possibly use the tool, we still reached out to them, but we used like an AI generated message about, hey, if you were to use our tool, this is what it would look like in your perceived sales process based off of their company description. And we did like a whole lot of AI stuff with that. 180,000 contacts. We just looked this up because I was like, oh, I wonder how many emails we've sent. 180,000 contacts went through that campaign. We would send like 2,000 emails a day. We consistently get like 20 to 30 positive responses a day. And there's no SDR in the loop of that. We built that system one time and then we just pushed it forward. And so we use Clay, like candidly, like I work for Clay and I love the product and this is how we do all of these things. But if you have things that you know that work, and you know, oh, okay, if they're in this industry, we say this. If they're this title, we say this. If this happens, we say this. All of this stuff can be automated. So for anybody who's like, oh, but like maybe it's not possible to like send that many emails and personalize all of them. Yes, it's 100% possible. You need to get your TQ like training hat on, technology quotient training hat on, all of the IQ stuff and the emotional quotient stuff that you did. That was really important. And when you're on the sales call, awesome. But like to run these systems, you really need to upgrade your game. Like, do you know how to use APIs? Do you know how to use webhooks? Do you know how to do web scraping? Like, so that you can scale these systems. I don't think in 2023 there's any kind of balance we have anymore.
Great. Okay, so thanks, guys. Let's move on. There's so much to talk about, but let's maybe discuss some of the mistakes. And I'm not talking about some of the obvious stuff like Marcus brought up. Hey, you went to this school, or my personal favorite is, hey, I found your content so inspiring and insightful. Now let me sell you something. But when we're talking about like those are the very bad, but what are the maybe other mistakes beginning SDRs or salespeople are doing when writing those cold emails? So can you point out something that kind of rubs you the wrong way, and so that people can just note that and not use it in their next cold email?
Not constantly updating the content. I still get cold emails about COVID. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like
such unprecedented times we're in right now.
Yeah. It's scary. Scary times.
Staying positive.
Yeah. Like, which crisis are they talking about here? You need to be more specific, given everything going on in the world. But yeah, that's the most common mistake that I see, is that they're just using something that was written by someone 6 months ago and never bothered to check to see if they can improve it or make it better. And that's the most common one. Yeah,
I'd say that too templated, too cookie cutter email, which goes right into what exactly you said. They took that sequence that's written by somebody else. Let me just kind of use that. That's probably the first one. The second thing I see is not taking like the AI tech that's available and applying common sense to actually use it, right? So like, for example, I've seen some where clearly I know they went to ChatGPT-4 and said, write me a cold email about this and insert this. And it's like really like, I can tell they took it, copy pasted it, and just threw it into an email. And every volume was the same thing. And they didn't take this time to just, trust, but verify it and make the appropriate tweaks and maybe give additional prompts to improve and enhance so it actually fits a little better. Right. So I think it's definitely a huge pitfall I'm seeing happen more often now. And then the third is just not even embracing AI and kind of hoping like, well, I hope my company will teach this to me. I hope someone will just teach it to me. Here's the truth. No one's coming to save you. Like, you have to go and save yourself, whether you are a sales rep, a BDR, a founder. You have to go out there and take control of the situation and learn about AI and get the right tools if you're a founder for your team to be able to utilize this tech, and then show them how to use the tech and how to apply common sense and critical thinking skills so they can prompt it effectively to actually help you improve your response rates and your booking rates.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake I always see, and I think this is so funny, is people will want to do things that if they were on the other side, if they were the recipient, they would not like. Like I literally had a phone call yesterday where somebody was like, okay, Eric, I got a big idea. Big idea. We have 40,000 leads in HubSpot. 10,000 of them unsubscribe to us. The first people we should go after is our unsubscribe list. And I was like, okay, hold on. Let's like roll this back for a second. Wait. So like out of like all of the people that we could possibly target in the world, you want to go after the unsubscribed people first. And he's like, yeah, well, because like maybe they didn't know what they were unsubscribing to. And I was like, they knew. They really, really knew what they were unsubscribing to. I promise you. And so we talk a lot about how like, because what Nick said, right? Like if you send 100,000 emails, like you won't be able to email those people for a certain amount of time. It's absolutely true. But I always ask people, what's the cold email that you received 2 days ago? And they can't remember. And so it's like, we can absolutely re-talk to people, but if they unsubscribe, we shouldn't talk to them. And so that I think is the most common mistake that I see is like, yeah, like what, like just things that if a company were to do that to you, would you like it? And then they're like, no. I'm like, okay, like we're not doing that.
Well, that's a good example. Like that's poor targeting now. Like, why would you go after them? You know, like that's like, it's like, there's no fish in that pond. Why are you gonna go in that pond and go fish now?
Yeah. It's like, did you ever see Grant Cardone's like interview with Jordan Belfort? And he was like, zero interest is a level of interest. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So,
actually, no, it's not.
Yeah. So like, it's like, that's the biggest mistake I see. Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Sounds good. All right, so let's try to kill two birds with one stone. I'm gonna try to merge two questions into one because I think that they're related. We have about 7 minutes, so it should be a good time frame for that. So basically the question is, what's the future like for salespeople, and what's the future like when we're talking about emerging technologies, tools that are changing or even revolutionizing cold emailing. And feel free, guys, to plug your own tools, because again, we wouldn't invite you if we didn't think you have great solutions. So let's talk about what's the future of cold emailing or cold outreach in general, and how does technology apply to that, and what that technology might look like.
So, go ahead.
I can jump in really quickly here. I mean, it's the way that I see it is the volume is going to continue to go up, not go down. And the filters that people's inboxes will have on them will increase, right? Mainly the email clients that people use, or the actual, email service providers. You even see this with, iOS updates, of, opening all the emails. So everybody's open rates are, junk, or to a certain extent. And it seems like others will follow suit. So with those two things that I think are pretty much certain, it's just locking in and continuing to focus on all the things that we talked about today, and just know that it's going to get harder and harder over time, but the value of a response will go up because it is more difficult to get one, right? So these things happen in concert with one another. So I think the future is bright. It's just the rules were changed, the guardrails were changed, and you just have to adapt and continue to adapt over time. But all of us as humans and people working are spending more time in our email inboxes, not less. So that's also true too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely seen a major emergence and rise to the tech advancing, better tools, more advanced tools, other tools like Reply, very cool, right? It's the level of customization you can create with the AI. And we're going to see it improve over time. That's just a reality, right? So it's going to get better and better and better. But the constant is going to be the people operating the tech. So I think the future is really going to be is like, as a leader, as a founder, how do you find and hire the right people, pay them the right compensation to properly use the technology to its full extent? And I think about it's kind of like when social selling started getting really big. Today it's not new at all, but how many still struggle with it, right? Because they're not set up for success. So as these new tools emerge and companies are adding them on and utilize them with great results, if you want to maintain and increase the results in a tougher time where we're getting responses, then you have to hire the right level of talent, compensate them properly, train them, and set them up to win so they know how to be effective operators of those tools.
Yeah, really agree. I think another thing is that cold email is the future of cold email is that it will become an ad network more than it will be like this outbound strategy. And so let me unpack that a little bit. So I love playing guitar. I use ultimateguitar.com all the time. They have AdSense on the platform. When I first started playing guitar, the only ads that I would ever see was hot singles in my area. And it was not relevant to me at all. I was 12. I couldn't do anything about that. Like, why am I seeing this?
Sure.
Yeah. And so,
what were you Googling back then?
Yeah. And so then now I am on Ultimate Guitar on Saturday night, and I'm getting ads for things to buy in my house, camping gear. I do a lot of bike riding. I do a lot of CrossFit. These are the ads. I think I literally got a rogue ad, like right on the side for like something that I had in my shopping cart. And I was like, oh my God, these ads are so freaking good. Yeah. And so I think cold emails can keep going to this point where like the only reason you're going to be on my email, and you're going to know it's AI generated, like, but I don't think you're going to care, because the only reason you're getting my email is because you qualified for a trigger. There's a specific keyword in your company description that makes you a right fit. You just hired your 8th sales rep, and like between 8 and 10 is when we know that you got this issue. And I'm blasting you right then and there to say, hey, you just hired your 9th sales rep. Usually you need a way bigger upgrade to your CRM or your sales engagement platform, whatever it's going to need when you're like crossing this team boundary, or you just hired a new SDR manager, whatever it might be. You're only going to receive an email because it's relevant to you. And it's going to take somebody who's talented on the back end to build systems like this. But then everyone's going to know everything's AI generated. But at least if it's AI generated, you're like, this is true. We did just bring on an SDR manager. Like, we do need to build up the system. You know, we'll take the meeting. And then I think that's where cold email is headed.
I just hate how I'm a sucker for these effective ads, Eric, as you're describing. It's just ridiculous, you know. As a young dad with certain a level of interest in certain things, like stuff for backyard. I hate how much useful stuff it shows me, because my wallet is not safe.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but it's like finally, like I'm seeing ads that are actually
it's relevant
for me.
It's relevant for you.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Email's going to get there. We just need to, like I said, embrace the systems, make the automations, have the talent behind it. Email's going to get there.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm being told by our marketing we do have a few more minutes, so we're going to squeeze in a few questions from the audience, which I think these are pretty good questions. Is there a perfect amount of time for a campaign to run before moving on to another, even if it's performing? So so the amount of time the campaign should be running before you're kind of comfortable enough measuring its success.
I don't know. I feel like it depends on the industry. What's the product? What's the service? Usually what we've started doing in the agency is, because I really want to weed out people that like I just can't help. And there's no way to know that I can't help them until we start a campaign. What we have noticed though is I ran through like all of our customers, and like all of the customers that became our best clients, their first campaign right off the rip worked. And all of the customers that like drain a lot of our time and our energy, because we have to keep redoing the copy and we have to keep redoing the strategy and we have to keep redoing everything. We could try 2, 3, 4 things before we find something that works. And then sometimes nothing ever works. And we try like really, really sophisticated things. So what we're doing now is we'll send, like, we call them flight tests, where we're like, look, if this works, you should be able to get a positive response after like 1,000 emails, and then we're gonna like take it forward and then keep optimizing your campaign from there. So we have like these templates that they pick from, and then we like send out 1,000 emails. So like we use 1,000 as like possibly a test. But if you're like an SDR leader or you're working at a company and like you got to figure this out, you don't have my option where I'm like, I just won't take you as a customer. Then I would say like 1,000 to 2,000 contacts, as long as your TAM is big enough to handle that. Like you've got like over 40,000 people in your TAM or something. 1,000 to 2,000 contacts is kind of where I'd be like, if you're not getting positive responses, like you need to go in like another direction. But like yesterday, I got a Slack message from somebody who sent 100 emails, and he said he didn't book meetings, and he was like mad at my YouTube video because of that. And I was like, no, like you got to send more emails. Like that's totally fine. So yeah, I guess I would call it that number.
Yeah, I think it's tricky in the sense that, because Eric, you're spot on. There's so many factors outside of it, right? Because like think about some of the things we mentioned before, like what's the marketing environment that's been curated for that prospect? So like is there a really good social media presence? Are there retargeting ads? Are there Google ads? Have you done keyword ads, etc.? So you have different things that can also juice it, and then you also add in, is the rep good at omni-channel? Are they making calls as well? Are they also hitting them up on LinkedIn or Twitter or Threads or wherever they're at? Are they like engaging around? So there's different things that can really enhance and improve it. And what if that rep has a low, who's not very active on social media versus one who has a really good brand on social media? So you can see, obviously, a rep who's got a great brand on social media, if they're engaging with that prospect, they're probably going to have better responses as a result too, just because of it. So there's many factors you have to incorporate, and I don't think any answers are really binary, yes or no. There's ranges to it. There's definitely ranges to it. So you have to make the best decision for your own business with those things in mind.
And maybe to rephrase this question, Nick, do you have any thoughts personally? When's your kind of what's your point when you just stop the campaign? It's not worth iterating. It's not worth changing anything. It simply doesn't work. So what are your personal boundaries there for campaign performance?
Yeah, personally is more of a reflection of the size and scale that Close has reached, right? At a little over a decade into this, we think of our business in terms of quarters. We live quarter to quarter now, right? So when we look at a campaign, the amount of resources going into it, and like Marcus is talking about, it's omni-channel. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it's sort of like a quarterly thing, and then halfway through the quarter we check to make sure what course corrections do we need to make, or is it just so bad we should just stop? And that's sort of the stopgap to decide if we're going to go with this for the rest of the quarter or make any adjustments halfway through. For startups, the opposite is true. You live day to day, so you should look at this on a weekly basis, and all of that, and then in between is the monthly folks where that lives too. So it's like what Eric and Marcus are talking about. I just think purpose the duration of time to the duration of time that you're living in as a business. Startups are, you live and die by the day, and in our world we live and die by the quarter, and you'll find where you should live, and you'll adjust based off of that.
I think one thing that really quick, and I think it's I don't want to miss this point, is a sense of you have to know your data. What are your metrics showing you, right? And how are you solving for that problem? And what I mean by that is, let's just say if you fired off 20,000 emails and you're not booking any meetings, you might be like, oh, that's a bad sequence. But then what if you're looking like, oh, actually the open rate's 0%. So you actually have a deliverability issue. So the issue may not be necessarily the sequence that you wrote or the template. It might be a deliverability issue. So that's why knowing your metrics is so key, so you can identify what the constraint is in your sales process, whether it's top of funnel or any part of the process, and then you focus on optimizing for that. You solve for that problem. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Oh yeah, the only thing for startups who are like, when should we like deviate? Another hard rule, and this is kind of funny, but like I think it should be out there. A hard rule that we have is if we're trying something new and somebody curses at us, if anybody sends any kind of curse in an email, whether it's the first 100 emails or we get to like the 1,000th one and we even got positive responses first, we kill the whole thing. Because on a good performing campaign, nobody should really, now if you send 5,000 and there's like that one person who curses at you, then we like ignore that. But if we're trying something new, we just kill it immediately, because then it's like, okay, wait, like we're totally getting this wrong. Technically what you should be getting is people saying, hey, not interested, like not at this time, or like I don't handle this or anything like that. If you're targeting super wrong, you'll start getting curse words, and that's when like we just kill everything.
Interesting. All right, guys, thank you very much. We're going to be wrapping up. Wanted to again thank all of the speakers. Everyone listening, please go and check. Obviously, Clay. Check Marcus's book. He's got his URL on the screen. Again, amazing session. I wish. Well, we should probably do maybe like 2 hours of these discussions, because at least personally for me, this is extremely valuable. But again, thank you very much, guys. And I look forward to doing more sessions with you.
Thanks so much. See everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. All right, moving on. So next up, we have Vlad, our VP of Growth, formerly SDR lead here at Reply. We've been working with Vlad for many, many years. Vlad is the person who set up most of our cold outreach campaigns, cold outreach strategies here at Reply over the years. And he will be sharing his insights on effective cold emails based on our own data from millions and millions of emails sent through Reply. Vlad, welcome. So you can take it from here.
Thanks, George. Hey, everyone. Love the previous session. I've been watching it. Love insights on the future of cold emails. There are tons of things happening right now, like deliverability, AI, personalization, warm up, more emails. Lots of things are happening right now, and probably I will have something relevant on this topic as well. Let me share my screen and let's get started. So today we'll be talking about data-backed insights on effective cold emails. So here at Reply, we are lucky enough to have ability to kind of get data-backed insights about cold emails, because we can analyze and anonymize data of our customers, what works, what not, etc. So we can analyze millions of emails sent through our platform each month. So we will be talking about data-backed insights, right, on effective cold emails, what works, what not, and how basically I have seen this question in the chat a few times, like how can I improve my replies? How can I get more replies? So probably I will be sharing some data-driven insights on this topic. Okay, my name is Vlad, and I'm growth leader here at Reply with SDR's background. I have spent probably 7 years sending thousands of emails, creating like, I don't know, maybe hundreds of sequences, lots of them basically. So I would love to share what we figured out. So today we will cover 3 things: subject lines, because subject lines are the very first thing people typically see when they open their email inbox. Number 2, it's going to be email templates, and then some bonus content. First of all, why it's matter? Here are some email stats. First of all, 99% of email users check their inbox every day. And preparing these slides, I realized, well, email is probably the most email clients can retain lots of users like for a very, very long time, right? Because we have to check our inboxes every day. 33% of email recipients open an email based on the subject line only. So they decide whether or not to open their email just based on the subject line. 45% of subscribers of recipients say they are likely to read your email because of who it's from. So probably if you have a well-known brand, if your CEO is active on LinkedIn, so probably it makes sense to use that asset, right? Because people tend to open emails from someone they know. Mobile devices shop up to 30 characters from an email subject line, so it's also important. Emails as the first thing 60% of people check in the morning, so it's super important to be in their inbox when they open their email client. A majority of email views come from mobile devices, so again, we have to embrace mobile first email templates, cold outreach, followed by desktop, just 40%. So yeah, mobile first future is here already. And number two, number of email users worldwide just keeps growing, we will have like almost 4.6 billion email users in 2025, so cold outreach won't die. I hope so, right? Because we will have lots of new users in new countries, in new continents. They will adopt email clients, and probably they will run businesses. They all need an effective way to communicate. So email will be still an effective, I hope so, and I think so, that email will be an effective channel in this decade. So let's get started with subject lines. One thing I've always been curious to find out, could the length of subject line influence like the open rates? And we decided to grab this data and analyze subject line length, number of words, and we can say that for sure that subject lines with 1 to 4 words generate the higher possible open rate, average open rate. Then it starts declining. The more words you have in your subject line, the longer subject line is, like the fewer opens you will get. And the same, by the way, happens with average reply rate. For some reason, they dislike replying to long subject lines. And an interesting insight here is, I guess, there is a huge red flag for empty subject lines. Never send empty subject line, because on average, your reply rate, open rate, will be 20% in comparison to 32% on average, based on our analyzed data. So I will recommend you to stick to 3, maybe 4 words max, and then just play around with this data. On the other hand, I have seen some other similar researches on subject line length, number of words, and they say an opposite. They say the more words you have, the fewer replies you get, like significantly. So we will analyze this data set again, just to make sure everything is correct here. But again, just play around with your subject line length and stick probably to shorter ones. By the way, feel free to ask your questions. We will go through your questions later. If you want, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I will be happy to answer any questions about data-backed insights from this presentation, from these slides, and I will be more than happy to share way more charts. We have them, dozens of them. So as you can see here, length makes sense, because here's an email I received a few days ago, and then you can see there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words, and the 6th one is like almost invisible. I understand it's my name, but it doesn't make sense. I don't know what you want to say, right? So probably 4 to 5 words, 3 to 4 to 5 words is a perfect choice. Case types, as any other SDR leader, salesperson, I'm receiving dozens of cold emails per week, I think. And recently I've noticed a trend that some SDRs and salespeople use all lowercase words. Like, as you can see in option number 1, sales development process at reply.io, all lowercase words. And I got curious, is this a shiny new trend, or is this something that could help them get more replies, more opens? And then we analyzed this pattern, and we can surely say that subject lines that contain all lowercase words typically generate fewer opens on average. As we can see here, most uppercase subject lines generate more opens than an average result. So my probably suggestion here is not to use all lowercase words, but again, if it works for you, that's fine, that's your choice. But typically I stick to the third variation, most uppercase words like sales, development, process, ad, reply, detail. And then this morning I saw an interesting post on LinkedIn. Someone said, "Hey, whoever invented the idea that salespeople should ask a quick question is genius, because this person can easily filter out all these generic cold outreach emails." And I have seen this as well. I have seen dozens of cold emails with this simple subject line: quick question, quick question. And we have analyzed this as well. As you can see here, typically this type of subject lines generates fewer opens on average. And more importantly, it generates fewer replies on average. On average, it's 3%. And if you use quick question, your average reply rate is 2.5%. The same with just question, quick chat. By the way, quick chat works better, but again, on average, reply rate is also lower here. Interesting that referral is cool, because probably it's a warm email and it works. All right, let's move on and let's talk about email templates. Email templates. And again, length is super important. It's super important. Probably the most important metric of your cold email template. Data says that in this case, less is indeed more. The email that contains less than 50 words, less than 70 words, something between 50 to 70 generates the highest possible reply rate and interested rate. So the longer email is, the fewer opens you get and the fewer replies you get. Probably my suggestion here is to stick to something between 50 to 70 words max. And it makes perfect sense. There is a study saying that on average, people spend reading brand emails an average like between 11 to 14 seconds. It's like, right, just 20% of a minute. It's like, just imagine this, 11 seconds. Probably brand emails is something HTML edited, but again, I assume that cold outreach email is kind of brand email, because you're a stranger, right? You want something from them, you reach out to them. Probably it's kind of, again, brand email. So if we assume that people spend reading emails 11 seconds from strangers, brand emails, and then we use another chart that typically people like reading speed is 250 words per minute. It means that if we want to grab their attention for 11 seconds, our cold email should be 50 words max. Or if they read faster, it could be like something maybe between 70 to 100 words. And as you can see here, it indeed makes sense. So probably I would say this is the most important metric, length. I would suggest to stick to 50, 70 words. Great. Once again, probably people don't like really long cold emails, and the same with grades of paragraph. As you can see, here's an example of my cold email. There are 4 grades of paragraphs, whatever you call it. There are 4 grades, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And we analyzed average reply rate and interested rate of cold emails and their paragraph or grades length. As you can see here, the cold email templates which contain only 2 to 3 grades generate the highest possible both reply rate and interested rate. Then it sounds like it doesn't matter if your email contains 6, 7, or maybe even 10 grades. Probably if you grab their attention in the first sentence, probably they will read everything else. But if you want to maximize your results, then I would suggest to stick to 2, 3, or 4 grades, just like this one. Maybe I could even improve this email and use just 3 grades. But again, I have no opinion on this for now. The next one is question. One of other elements I decided to analyze is questions. So I was curious because sometimes I see cold emails which contain more than 1 question. So typically it means, okay, so you want from me something, let's say number 1, then you want me something 2, then I'm a little bit confused, right? Because I don't understand what you want from me. Remember, the main goal of cold outreach is to have super like straightforward CTA. Like you want them to sign up for something, you want to book a demo, you want to get a reply, you want to click a link. So don't use lots of questions. As you can see here, interesting that as you can see here, average reply rate for cold emails that contain 0 questions get the highest possible reply rate on average. So probably I have heard lots of things about soft CTAs. So probably soft CTA with no question will help you get like surprisingly more replies. And an average interested rate is also higher. So the more questions you ask, you can assume that fewer you will get fewer replies. And if we compare cold email templates with 3 questions, we will see that they will generate 30% fewer replies on average. So, what's my recommendation here? I would say use soft CTAs like worst conversation, or my favorite one with 0 question is if this is something you're interested in, happy to share my details or something like this. 0 questions, but soft CTA like reveals their interest, and they are more than happy to reply back. And the last batch of things we decided to analyze for this webinar is for this event is content, whether or not pictures, links, GIFs influence your results. And as you can see here, indeed, 3 of them will decrease your average reply rate. And like totally makes sense, because sometimes links could contain like, long tail URLs are not good for email providers. So probably that's the reason sometimes they send long tail URLs. GIFs, that's completely different story, because typically they weight a lot, maybe 100 kilobytes or maybe sometimes even megabytes. So again, email providers dislike like heavy cold emails with heavy GIFs. The same with pictures. So my recommendation here for the very first cold email in your sequence in your cold outreach, just send blank emails with no pictures, with no GIFs. Let email providers think that it's not a spam. When they get used to your domain, to your email address, you can send maybe pictures or links in your second, third, fourth email follow-up. The same with links, but links It's not a big difference in comparison to an average result, so probably links are fine. And if we summarize everything we discussed today, here a cheat sheet for you on how to easily improve your reply rates and deliverability. So again, 33% of people open emails based on subject lines. I will recommend to use 1 to 5 words in your subject line. Never send empty subject lines. Use any case, but not lowercase. Subject line is short version of email. No quick questions. Don't use this subject line. But again, if it works, no problem. You can keep using it. Always A/B test. And when it comes to cold emails and cold email templates, typically people spend 11 to 15 seconds reading brand emails. I'm not sure if it's true for sales cold emails, but I assume yes. So length is super important. I will recommend to stick to 50 or 70 words, or maybe even fewer. Think about this as a tweetable emails, something between 200, 300 symbols. Grades or paragraphs are also important. Stick to 3 to 4, maybe max 5 grades paragraph. Use 1 question max. 1 question is way better, and use soft CTAs like what's the conversation? Is it something you're interested in? How do you think? Is this relevant to you? Do you think it's interesting? If so, let's have a conversation, etc. Content matters. Avoid links, give pictures in the very first cold email. Use them in your follow-ups. And again, always A/B test, always. Here's an example of my sequence. Typically, I try different subject lines, and sometimes I change just CTAs, maybe my wording, just some small tweaks. Send like maybe from 500 to 1,000 emails per each variant, and then grab the best possible, the best performing results. Yeah, it requires some passion, it requires some time, but again, probably ChatGPT will help generate ideas for you faster, and this will help you. So again, always A/B test, because everything I said today, it's just data backed, but it's on average. Maybe you have better results already, I don't know. But again, it's perfect time to experiment. Again, bonus content. I will share links after my presentation in the chat. Again, we have made approximately 6 pieces of content based on data insights. And again, I will highly encourage you to check them out. There are tons of charts, tons of data insights. Also, I'm happy to connect with you on LinkedIn, I don't know, Threads, via my newsletter, whatever you think you prefer. Happy to answer your questions. And as always, thank you. Thanks for your time, and thanks for listening.
Okay. So thanks, Vlad. We do have maybe 5 more minutes. So I think it would be a good time to follow up with some of the questions from the audience. Mainly, but by the way, as we were kind of checking those questions, and marketing has been submitting them for me to ask you, you continued with your presentation, and you asked quite a few of them. So we're going to skip the links question, but to the person who was asking, ideally, you don't want to include links because the question was, what's the optimal number? The optimal number is 0, as we have seen at Reply, but your mileage may vary, of course. If your business depends on sending a link, that might be a little bit different, or at least consider sending it not in the first email, as we have discussed during the first session. So
yeah, we can all comment about links. I will encourage you not to use in your email template, but again, you have signature. If you make it if you make this link show off in your signature, they will definitely click it if it's something you're interested in. if they're interested in your services or your product, etc.
Okay, so by the way, before I ask those questions, I wanted to remind everyone listening or watching us, we are giving away a couple of $100 Amazon gift cards for sharing this event on LinkedIn. So feel free to invite your friends, your colleagues, whoever might be interested in the topic of on cold emails, because the next session I think is going to be very interesting. So the few questions we got, actually a few variations of from multiple people. So one of them is LinkedIn. So to what extent, and I'm paraphrasing, to what extent these best practices, these data insights that you have provided, Vlad, apply to LinkedIn outreach? And is it more or less on par, or is it completely different if we're doing LinkedIn or multi-channel outreach?
Yeah, I will be honest here. I probably suck at cold calling and LinkedIn outreach. Not LinkedIn, but again, I have no data backed insights on LinkedIn because it's way harder to collect data. It's way harder to analyze connection request, acceptance rate, reply rate, because you can basically track all of those things. So basically, I have no data backed huge data sets on these. Again, there are some researches from consultants, LinkedIn outreach tools, but again, they all are semi data driven. I would say it's always something. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Let's.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. LinkedIn is, again, from at least my experience, talking to agencies. Which, by the way, somebody asked about an agency. I'm gonna do a quick plug. So Diego was asking, how can Reply help my SDR agency? Diego, reach out to us. Reach out to me directly, george@reply.io. We have a separate custom version for agencies. So we have been working a lot with agencies. So we know the struggles, we know the pain points. But while speaking to agencies, I'm hearing that LinkedIn, while being kind of a closed system that's owned by a single company, so there's not a lot that could be extracted in terms of data points, although that's always evolving. Just based on what I've heard from Vlad's presentation, most, if not all of those approaches still work. You want to make it short. You want to make it as short as possible without making, skipping the basics, which is the value, the context, the call to action, which should be extremely clear, and it should not be, people should not scroll on their phone in order to see what you want from them, because they will never scroll. And like we were talking about in the first session, you never want to start with a cookie cutter type of personalization that that hundreds, if not millions of beginner SDRs are using. So do your research. That's just my 2 cents. And the last one, Vlad, and we're going to be wrapping up. What about the timing? Have you analyzed anything about what time of day and day of week people should be sending their cold emails?
Great question. We had our previous event on this. I had a presentation on this. There is an article and there is a PDF on Reply's website about timing. And if, long story short, I would recommend to send the first email on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can use follow-ups you can send follow-ups on Monday and Friday, because typically they don't reply on follow-ups as good as their first email. And what we have seen that from 9 to 12, and then from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is perfect timing. And again, July, and in terms of months, July, August and the end of December as the worst months for cold outreach. Like replies 2x lower, something like that.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Vlad. I think that's a good wrap for this session. Let's move on. And guys, this is probably the highlight of the day, of this event, at least today. So we're going to continue with a hands-on workshop where we will try to put everything we've talked about today into practice by analyzing the email templates some of you have submitted before the event. I'm thrilled to welcome Collin Mitchell, VP of Sales at Leadium. He's joined me already. So hi, Collin. Welcome.
Hey, George. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time for this. I guess the floor is yours. Feel free to start.
Yeah, awesome. Will we have any time for questions at the end?
Let me see. I would say we're here until the top of the hour. So if you finish a little bit earlier, we will be able to cover some questions.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Thank you. Yeah, so thanks for having me. Always love doing events with Reply. Always great panel of people on these events. My name is Collin Mitchell. I am the VP of Sales and Managing Partner over at Leadium. So we help companies with outbound. So we do outbound as a service. We've worked with over 1,000 different companies across campaigns. So we've seen lots of success in helping these companies with their outbound and the things that have changed with email, over the years. Leadium has been doing this for over 10 years. So today I'm going to go through 4 different emails that were submitted. I'm going to show you the original version of that email, and then we're going to go through a bit of a teardown in different sections of those email, and then I'm going to share a rewrite that I wrote as well for each of those emails. All right. So the first email, here is the original email. Hi, first name. I hope this email finds you well. It's my personal favorite opening line. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Oleksiienko, and I am the co-founder of Full.io. We have developed a new sales performance technology that helps your brokerage stand out amongst your competitors. I would love to connect with you to share how agents at your brokerage can use Full.io to deliver unmatched buying experience for their clients. Are you available for a quick call next week? Looking forward to the opportunity to discuss further. All right, so let's break down some issues that I found, particularly with this email. Hope this email finds you well is probably one of the worst opening lines. If that's an opening line that you're using, please just stop. It is like the first indication that this is, a bad email. George, what's your thoughts on I hope this email finds you well?
Well, I can talk a lot about those standard introductions. Just wanted to quickly jump in, Collin. We're not seeing your screen. It would be great to.
Oh, geez.
Right.
All right. What happened there? All right. So I thought let me try to share it again. Give me a second here. All right. So let's try it again. Can you see it? Now there it is. Beautiful. Okay. So let's go back to the original email for a second. All right. So here's the original email, which I already read, but we'll take a second to just look at that. And then we're going to go into the teardown. So hope this email finds you well. Not a good opener. Look, you got to, a lot of emails are read on mobile. So your email should be mobile optimized. There's the preview text that folks are going to see on that email before they open it. And if the first thing that they see is, I hope this email finds you well, most times they're probably not even going to open that email. They're just going to delete it. Or there's a very good chance it doesn't even get into the inbox in the first place. Okay. So the second line of this email, the second section of this email is all about this person, their company, and what they do. Okay. And then the following line hasn't added any value at all. And then it closes with sort of an assumptive line after the call to action. So the number one thing in this email that I see as a problem is the email is mostly about this company, and it hasn't added any value, and good chance this email never even gets to the inbox or read. Okay. So here, now I wrote these rewrites based on not knowing necessarily who I'm sending them to. So some of them are fairly general, but you'll notice that this rewrite, number one, is a lot shorter. Okay. And it opens with a question: ready to leave your competitors in the dust? At FuelFell, we have revolutionized sales performance technology to help your brokerage shine. So it's a combination of a little bit about what FuelFell does, as well as highlighting them as well, not making it all about me and what my company does. We help you stand out to your client by enabling your agents and providing best possible buying experience. So what I did here is I really tried to make that next line about them. So if you think about an email in general, right, you want to have an opening line that sort of catches their attention. And the goal of an email, of each line of the email, is you really want them to read the next line. And so that's why you have these spaces here. That's why you break it up. And then I like to sum it up with a very soft call to action. A lot of people write emails where their only goal is to get a call or to book a meeting, or in some cases, they're even sending a calendar link, which we'll get into in some of the tips and such when we wrap this up. But your main goal of an email is just to get a conversation started or to get a reply, right? So that's why I like to use call to actions like this one here, where it says, would you be open to a quick chat next week to learn more how we did this, right? So I'm just asking them a question. It's a little bit softer. It's not so straight to the point with the call to action, and it leaves it open. And so that is the rewrite for the first one. And now we have another email. So this is the original email here. As a fellow family lawyer, we know the administrative burden and loss of billable time that comes with filtering, allocating, and gathering background information from potential clients. It's crucial to ensure that your initial consultation goes smoothly. So kind of lengthy, but we'll get into that. That's why firms like Name and Name have turned to Company to impress potential clients and gather client information with personalized and educational intake process. Company not only leaves a great impression, it enhances your initial consultations. Clients are more focused and lawyers are better prepared, interested in learning more. All right, so let's look at the teardown. Okay, so this is very assumptive and a little bit deceiving here. Also could be much shorter. The next chunk there, it's not even clear necessarily what they do. It's kind of vague. And the end there is just extra word vomit. And then I don't hate the call to action, interested in learning more. I actually think that's not a bad call to action. So I wouldn't even necessarily change that too much. But the rest of the entire email, one of the biggest things is read these emails. When you're writing these emails, read them out loud to yourself. Reading your emails out loud to yourself, you could see when I was reading that email, you can ask yourself, is this something that I would reply to? And a lot of times you'll find that there's a lot of fluff that you can cut. It comes off too salesy, too spammy, or in this case, like a big just bunch of word vomit. All right, so let's look at the rewrite. Very, very big difference, right? From the original version here to the rewrite. So this one here, subject line, enhance your practice. So I like to stick to like 2 to 3 word subject lines. Hey, first time, I know that a lawyer's most valuable asset is their time, right? So if you think about the person that you're writing to, you know that lawyers, value their time significantly. So that's why I started that email this way. We help firms like, and then I wanted to insert a competitor name there, minimize admin and maximize the time that streamlines your client's intake, saving them valuable billable hours. Can I share a case study or two with you? So very light call to action, not even asking for their time. Very different than the call to action in the first rewrite, specifically because we're saying, hey, we know that you're a lawyer. We know that your time is extremely valuable. We have a solution that can help you save time. And it would make no sense to then ask for some of their time as the call to action, which is why I went with that call to action in this specific email. All right, let's look at the next one. This is the original version of this email. PickThrive is also a marketing platform. Hello, contact, first name. At PickThrive, we aren't only a premium photo and video platform, we offer outstanding user-generated marketing benefits for your business too. PickThrive increased TripAdvisor's review by 35% in one season for Royal George Rafting and Zip Line, and helped Katana Cascades become the #1 ranked rafting operator on TripAdvisor in New Zealand. We offer your guests a chance to click directly to Google and TripAdvisor reviews as soon as they view their photo or video albums on your custom branded page. And we also store your clips for 3 years so that your marketing or photo team can have direct access. I'd love to have a chat with you about ways that PickThrive could help your business to stretch your marketing dollars and maximize guest satisfaction. All right, there's a lot to unpack there. So, number one, I don't even know why. I don't even know why this is the first line in the email, right? And the next one here, the email is all about them, and it's way too long. I mean, that whole email is just that whole 3 sections, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs there. The email is all about them and very long. The call to action is also long, and it's really not even clear. I'd love to have a chat with you about the ways PickThrive can drive your business to stretch marketing and maximize. So very long call to action, not even clear there. But chances are, based on this email, I would imagine that anybody receiving this probably wouldn't even make it through the whole email to get to the call to action anyway. So probably doesn't matter much. So the rewrite, very short, sweet, enhance your practice. Oh, whoops. We got the wrong. Give me 1 second. I think I got the wrong email here. I'm not sure what happened here. Give me 1 second to fix this. All right. Okay, let's see here. Somehow I got the wrong email in here.
No worries, Carl.
All right, there we go.
Just wanted to jump in to fill the silence there with a quick announcement. But let's move on. Everything good?
Yep.
All right, let's move on.
All right. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so there we go. All right, so here, 2-word subject line, boost reviews. Hey, first name, want better marketing? PickThrive can help. We store your clips for 3 years so your team can access them easily and guests can see Google and TripAdvisor reviews on your page. Can I show you how we increase TripAdvisor's reviews by 35% with PickThrive? So there's really, 4 sections to an email. 5, I guess, if you include the subject line, right? So subject line, how we address them, which is a whole, I just kind of put, hey, first name on most of these. But even if you're, taking into consideration the people and their personality and things like that, there's different ways that we can address people, whether it's like, hey, hi, or hello, or just first name, which is something, we didn't even necessarily get into because I don't know who I'm sending these emails to. But I open it with a question, right? And told them PickThrive can help without telling them too much, right? The previous email was all about how PickThrive could help, which is way too much, right? If we refer back to that for a second. And then I told them a little bit about what we do, but also right there, I'm also connecting it to how we can, help the guest experience and also with their team, right? So we store your clips for 3 years so your team can access them easily and guests can see Google and TripAdvisor reviews on your page. And then a very light call to action. Can I show you how we increase TripAdvisor reviews by 35% with PickThrive? So very light call to action, but also putting in there a little bit of proof as well, rather than leading with that. Integrating that proof into the call to action, I've seen to be very effective as well. All right. So next we've got another email here. Hi, name. Congrats on the new position at company name. Hope you're working hard whilst having a bit of fun. I reached out because I've noticed company name on the lookout for Salesforce experts, including Salesforce admins, developers, and business analysts. As a full-service Salesforce partner with a team of 600 plus Salesforce experts and 12 years on the market, we can help you anytime if you need specific Salesforce resources or additional Salesforce expertise. Open to learning more. All right. So the first line isn't terrible. It's personalized a little bit. It doesn't seem like super genuine because, I mean, frankly, we all know how easy it is to find, when people are at a new job. As a data point, this second line is really just needs to, there's just too much fat there. We could just cut that. And then the last line is a little bit too salesy. Again, not a terrible call to action on this one, so I didn't put anything there. But if we look at the rewrite, subject line, alleviate headaches. That's, something that can catch people's attention, people can relate to. Congratulations on your new role at company name. So I still left that, but I cut some of the fat that they had. I'm sure there's a lot to be overwhelmed by considering you have open roles for Salesforce admins, developers, and business analysts. Okay, so I'm trying to have a little bit of empathy here in this message where I'm saying, okay, I know that they're in a new role. They have all these open roles. And so then I'm going to inject a little bit of a value prop here. We have over 12 years of experience providing Salesforce solutions that can help alleviate some of this burden for you. Would it be worth exploring how we've helped companies like, and then insert competitor name? So we all know that when people are in new roles, they typically make a lot of decisions in the first 6 months, but you also want to have a little bit of empathy when that's your approach that, hey, they probably have a lot going on. So I called that out specifically and then wrapped it up with a really light CTA. All right. So final, I'm going to share just a few tips, things to consider, in cold emails, specifically when writing your email or even just in your setup. There's probably a lot of other things that I could have added, but I wanted to just highlight some of the most important things. Make sure you have a proper tech setup, right? So that means like not using your primary domain. That means having your proper like SPF and DKIM records all set up, scaling the volume that you're sending with, warming those domains up. There's a lot that we can unpack in the tech setup. There's lots of tools, obviously, like Reply that can help you out with these things. Make sure that you have an updated list, right? So good validated data. You don't want a lot of bounces. You don't want to go in a lot of spam. That's all going to help hurt your deliverability over time. Spend more time on the data before you just start sending, right? So have really good segmented lists with validated emails, and that's going to help you overall. Personalize your messages based on the data. Try to use 2 to 3 word subject lines and keep your emails around 75 words. No links or attachments in those emails. Space out your sends, right? So you don't want to send a bunch all at the same time. That's going to hurt you. And then always review your data and your performance and always be looking to optimize your emails. Those are a few things that I feel are some of the most important things to call out. But I know that we have a little bit more time, so we can definitely open it up for some questions.
All right. Thanks, Collin. Super interesting. I'm going to start. Yeah, we have compiled quite a few questions from this session and some of the previous ones that haven't been answered because we didn't have enough time. But I think they fit nicely into the email breakdown kind of conversation. So in one of our previous sessions, Nick from Close brought up this point that, people rarely will answer the first email, which is debatable, again, even according to the speakers. But with that in mind, in your personal opinion, would it, and this was also a question from the audience, would you recommend excluding an explicit ask, which I'm assuming like a hard type of a CTA in the first touch of an email, in favor of putting it into some of the follow-ups?
So I wouldn't say so. My take on that is that you should still include a CTA in the first email. Now, are you always going to get a reply on the first email? No, but sometimes you do. It depends on. It's not out of the question, and it happens if your first email is good. And so the problem is a lot of people send a really good first email, and then their emails that follow the second email typically are very basic, right? Like just bumping it, following up, any thoughts, a lot of these emails that don't really add any additional context or value also are not going to yield good replies. So I'm in favor of having a call to action in the first email. I wouldn't not include a call to action in the first email. But again, a soft call to action, right? Not like a hard, asking for 15 minutes on Wednesday, but more like, hey, can I share a case study? Are you open to learning more? Can I show you how we've done this? Right? A lot of people's call to actions are more hard CTAs, where soft CTAs are going to yield more replies.
Okay, thank you. The other one was about AI, and I don't think you've mentioned any kind of AI, generative AI tactics in creating these cold emails, because ultimately it's about rewriting them and making them look better. But what's your stance on trusting AI, whether it's ChatGPT based solutions, Reply being one of them, quick plug, wink wink, but a more kind of advanced sales specific AI, and how much would you trust AI, artificial intelligence, to write your cold emails for you, and versus always staying on top? Because we're talking to both camps at this time here at Reply. We're talking to people that are like, I'm never ever, because what's the word? They're too controlling. Like, this is my livelihood depends on the messaging that I'm putting out. So I'm going to continue doing this myself because I know my job better. Versus, AI is the future, and those who are not following are going to be left behind, which is also a very common sentiment lately. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, I would say I fall more on the latter, where if you're not leveraging AI, you're going to get left in the dust. I think that the problem is most people don't know how to use AI well, meaning they don't know how to build up enough context. Like, you can't just say, write me a good email, right? Based on this value prop to this person, right? It needs a lot more context to come up with something good. And that takes a little bit of time. But if you put in the time, it's worth it. And then you start to learn what's a good prompt versus not a so good prompt. And you can start to see the iterations that come out from AI. I mean, I think that, even if you spend the time to build up the context of, who it is that you're targeting and everything that you know about that person, maybe it's what technologies they're using, what personality type they are, how long they've been in their role, maybe some paint around some open job roles. Like, these are all things that you can use to build up context to write a good email. And even when you use all of that and spend the time to build that up to then, insert the value proposition and get an email as the output, it still might not be perfect, right? So you still may want to make some, changes and fine tuning it a little bit to getting where it is. But ultimately you can do it a lot faster, right? It doesn't have to be like human versus AI, right? The combination of, the thing that AI doesn't have is like your human experiences or context, right? And an example of that would be like if I'm reaching out to somebody who's, that went to the same college as me or has some mutual connections, or maybe they worked at a company that I used to work at, or things like that. Like AI can't help you build that context. But the combination of the two can be very powerful. I don't think it needs to be like one or the other.
Exactly. You know what? Yeah, the phrase that I heard recently, and I might be kind of paraphrasing, is AI is not going to take your job, but people who know how to use it will, which is, I think, is pretty true in the scale industry.
I saw that recently too, and I think that for anybody who is a little bit skeptical at that point, maybe that'll resonate with them a little bit.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I guess one of the questions that caught my attention was, so you talked about a lot of these specific examples, and obviously, good performing cold email is never about, hey, use this specifically. So I wanted to ask if you have maybe your own kind of formula for, let's say, icebreakers, or either subject lines or the first sentence in the email. Do you have any sort of kind of approach to what you want that icebreaker to be? Meaning, is it just simply, stay within X amount of words, like Vlad was just mentioning in the previous session, or do you have some kind of approach of, okay, we want to mention this, this, and this, but not make it longer than this, and that sort of thing? Do you have any kind of for yourself, even maybe for your own campaigns personally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question to answer because everybody wants that perfect opening line, right? That perfect icebreaker that's going to, look good in the preview and get them to open and read the email, right? But the challenge is a couple of things. Most people don't do enough work on the data side of having enough information about the people before they reach out and even send the email. And that's where a lot of people fall short. So there is no like silver bullet quick answer of like, hey, your icebreaker should be this amount of words, or should, capture this, or anything like that. It's more about having like, we build outbound programs for, teams. And so a lot of the work goes into like the strategy and the data before we even start to dive into like the messaging. Right. And so, the data piece of knowing as much about these people, like triggers, job openings, funding rounds, things that you can find about them, personal research, technographics, personality insights, personalization from socials, news, Google, website, 10Ks, identifying any sort of pain points that those particular people have. Once you have all that information on a specific person, which is different for everybody, right? A lot of people are personalizing their messages based on a specific ICP or a persona, where you can actually personalize at scale if you use tools that are available today, maybe a little bit of manual research, on the front end before you ever even build any messaging and put something in sequence. I know that's like kind of a long-winded answer, but that's how we approach things. I know it's a little bit different than how a lot of people are thinking about outbound today.
No, absolutely. And yeah, from what I'm getting, this again, something we started this event with is personalization is key now. And you are talking about some of the tools that are available today, and a lot of people are already talking about tomorrow. And obviously, Reply being one of the automation platforms is going to be probably one of the first to go into hyper personalization at scale. I'll just do a quick, what's it called? Just a hint on what's coming in our AI features, but that's definitely coming. So we're trying to kind of hit that balance between large volume, and large volume may mean different numbers for you, obviously, depending on who you are and what you're selling and who you're targeting and all of that. But big volumes versus hyper personalization. So that's again with the introduction of tools like GPT-3 and ChatGPT. I would say here's what I suggest. I'm gonna kind of announce one of our, in our opinion, one of the interesting questions, because we had this little just reward for the most interesting question posted in our chats. And I'm curious what your opinion on this is, because we haven't brought this question up in the previous sections. How much AI generated emails, how much AI generated content do you think is helpful in the context of an early SaaS startup to target early adopters? Which is, again, we're talking about scale versus personalization. So in this case, we're probably talking about scale. My assumption is because early adopters, you want to get as many people in the door as possible as an early startup. So how much, in your opinion, should companies rely on AI to scale that?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, how important is it to use AI generated content for scaling to get your first early adopters?
I would say, yeah. How much should you rely even on it? So should you rely on it at all? And if so, kind of to what extent you want to introduce those AI generated snippets, let's say in the first step email?
I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, right? I mean, anything that's going to help you do research on companies and prospects faster. And, I mean, it's kind of why would you not use technology, right? Because if you use AI, you can do things faster and more efficiently than doing them manually, right? And I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, you may not want to rely on it completely, but I think over time, I mean, I think a lot of times when people have these types of questions, it usually tells me that they don't have a ton of experience using it. Because if you had more experience using it, you would actually start to understand how powerful it is. And then you would start to rely on it even more and get more comfortable and more confident with using it. So typically when people have those types of questions, usually means they don't have a lot of experience. I was a little bit skeptical of some things at first myself, but once I started using it more, then I became more comfortable relying on it more.
Yeah, you kind of reiterated my kind of opinion on that as well, which is if you're a startup, if you're new to this, if you're maybe a technical founder who's never done any sales, but you have to get your first early adopters, you have to get some initial traction. By all means, you can use as much AI as possible, because you have to use something, and sending a good well thought out AI generated sales email. So don't go directly to ChatGPT, because it's gonna give you not so very good results, but use some tailored solutions based on ChatGPT in order to as a result to get something that's more usable in the context of, again, these practices that we have been covering, which is length, value proposition, call to action, just overall those best practices that we have seen examples of today, and use that as opposed to starting out with, hey, I noticed your whatever on LinkedIn. Here's why I want to reach out, and here's why we are so great. Never talk about how great we are, and always talk about what's in it for you. It's my personal opinion, but yeah, I guess that's a perfect kind of wrap for this session. Thanks, Collin. I do appreciate you jumping in and giving us some good examples and some lessons on what to keep in mind and take note of when writing cold emails. Anything you would want to end with? Maybe plug a Leadium or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think thanks for having me. Always enjoy coming on these sessions. At Leadium, we have a podcast for anybody who wants to learn more. We drop daily sales content. They can check it out. sales transformation on all your favorite podcast apps and YouTube and you name it. That's a good place to get some things. And then we also have a book coming out soon, which you can be on the lookout for, called Outbound Sales Simplified.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Collin, again. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thanks.
Okay, everybody. So we're wrapping up. Thank you, everybody who joined us today, sticking until the end. Like we announced, we will be sending the replay links for this, along with some extra resources and probably some links to the some of the presentations that were given during this webinar. We will, as I promised, we will be reaching out to those people who were sharing the links to this event on LinkedIn with a couple of Amazon gift cards. So thanks for those who took part in that. I guess that's it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the event, and we hope to see you at our next one soon. Thank you very much.